Cypress here was a breeding dog and shows a lot of signs of insecurity and that he might have been beaten or something really bad happened to him. Unfortunately, the guardian called Dylan's dog training before me, and Dylan is more of the negative guy to say the least. And so I want to use positive reinforcement to help build up his confidence. And just like dogs, just like humans, dogs feel a sense of pride and accomplishment when they master new skills. He also suffers some separation anxiety, and this is basically a panic attack when the dog feels, in his case, so insecure about being alone. So for a lot of dogs with insecurities like this, for separation anxiety, it's because I go from 100% access to my humans to 0% when they leave me. And if the guardian tried to put him in a kennel once, he lost control of his bowels there, so that wasn't a negative. So now he's either left in the garage or outside, but we're getting into a time of the year where that's not going to be an option. So what we want to do is we want to help the dog practice being alone. So I'm going to show, in this video, I'm going to show how we can teach the dog to stay. Now I teach the stay in for the 3 Ds. First D is for duration. Second D is for distance. The third D is distraction. A lot of people start with distance right away. The first thing I'm going to do is I've got a handful of treats in my left hand and 1 treat in my right hand. I'm going to put the handful of treats down at my belt. I'm going to show him that I have this one in my hand. And I'm going to give him the stay command like a stop sign. I'm actually going to put it in this hand. Well, some dogs, yes, you're going to be, there we go. We'll put it up here. Stay. 1, 2, 3. Stay. You want to say, anytime you give a treat, you want to say the name of the command right after you give the treat, or on top of, I prefer right after. All right, so we did 3 seconds, now we're going to do 6 seconds. So I'm going to put it in this hand. Stay. So I give him a stop sign, stay, and then turn it towards my chest. Stay. Now we'll go to 10 seconds. Stay. Stay. Well, I should have said that a little bit later. Now you can see he was really intently focused on me. Most dogs, the focus actually works against the humans. I'm going to show the guardian a focus exercise after this, which will help with his self-esteem anyways. But for this one, we want him just to learn just to stay, and it's hard for dogs to stay and not do anything. They're waiting. You have a handful of treats. You're not giving it to me. You're just staring at me. I must not be doing something right. So we want him to get there, and we're going to just basically gradually start increasing the length of time. Now, when it comes to training your dog, this is one of those few times that you're going to go past 5 minutes. But when I'm training a dog, I usually keep the training sessions to 1 to 2 minutes maximum, because we want the dog to be enthusiastic and have fun doing it. A lot of times if they go too long, the dog starts losing interest, we get frustrated, they know that we're frustrated, and they don't want to do the activity again. So always keep it short, end on a good note. For the stay, we want to keep practicing this until we can get up to 5 minutes before we go to the next stage. So at first it might be 3 seconds, 9 seconds, 12 seconds. Just give like about 5, how many treats you have time for, and then do however many you have. But if the dog starts losing interest, like I said, stop next time you have a good one, and then do something fun that the dog enjoys doing afterwards. So we make it just positive. Remember, dogs training should be fun. Okay, so once we get up to the point where, once we've gotten to whatever the iteration is where we're going to stop for the day, we need a release word. It should never be the word okay, because that's a top 50 word. I say break or release. I like hand signals too. You can say any words you want, but we want a word that means exclusively you're done. So the way that I do this is I practice 5, 10, 15 times, however many times I do it. When I want to end it, I take 1 treat, I roll it to the side, I say the word break. So he gets up and has to go do it, and then he hears the word break. That means he can't auto-release. He has to wait for the release word. Now, we're going to keep doing this, and like the best way to do this is to do it in like micro sessions throughout the day. Maybe in the morning we do one before we do breakfast. Then when we come home for lunch, we do one then. We do one before the kids come home. Just try to work it in. The ideal number of times to do it at a minimum of 3 times a day, but if you can do it 5 times a day, that's ideal. And again, sprinkle it throughout the day. Dogs take what they learn and they categorize it in their brain or arrange it in their brain when they sleep. So it's better if we can get him, over here, buddy, to take a nap or sleep in between practice sessions. It'll help him recall and produce better results the next time. Okay, so once we get to the point where we're 5 minutes, Maui, you wouldn't even get on this thing about a half an hour ago. All right, so after we get to the point where we're at 5 minutes, the next stage is to start moving away. Now, before you do that, when you're towards the 5 minutes mark, now, a couple other things. When you're doing this, my philosophy is if he starts in a sit, he should stay in a sit the whole time. He doesn't have to look at you the whole time. He can be looking at you and then look here, look around. As long as he doesn't get up, that's fine, because eventually we're going to leave the room and he's going to have to stay in a sit, so he doesn't have to look at us in the face. But if I'm at 60 seconds and I'm at 48, 58, 59, and when I get to 59, he kind of looks to the side. Or no, when I get to 59, he kind of raises his paw, and then I say 60 and give him the treat. He thinks the raise of the paw is what got him the treat. So if he does any movement, wait a second or two before, even if you have to elongate before you give him the treat. Now the other thing is sometimes if the dog is like sitting and it looks like he's going to get away, I might go. See how I recaptivated his attention? It's called a flash lure. So we just move my hand real quick, and then get him ready to do it. But when I do this, he has a strong sniffer. He's gonna go wherever the smell is strongest. So don't hold him like here, because then he's just gonna be doing this. So you can put him off to the side. Sometimes I find it's best to put it behind your back so it's kind of beyond his access point. All right, so when we get to the duration, at first my philosophy, and this is my starting point. If he's sitting here, towards the end of the 5-minute one, I want to start doing when I'm standing up, not when I'm kneeling down. At first, do it when you're kneeling, so you're more engaging with the dog. But once you get to like 4 or 5 minutes, maybe you're standing up. So eventually, I say stay. I'm standing up. I put my hand back to my chest. I take 1 step backwards. I count to 2. Then I come back and I say stay. Next time, I might take 2 steps backwards, count to 4, and then come back and give him the treat. Now, this is where I start off. Every dog you're gonna play with these numbers all over the place. But basically, we don't want to move away too far, too fast, too quickly, because he won't have the skill set and he'll come in looking for us. So the idea is, at first we take 1 step away, come back, and if you get to the point where you're taking 5 steps away, and when you take your 6th step, he starts to get up to follow you, then go back and practice it 5 steps over and over until he's good with that one before we moved on to the next one. Eventually, when we get to the point where, let's say this is, I'm going to stand up. It's okay if we don't have them with both. Let's say that I'm moving back, and let's say this represents an actual wall right here. And I'm at 10 feet or whatever it is. I get to 10 feet, I step to the side, he can't see me. Now this is what we want to prevent him from doing. So first I might just go back to him and give him the treat. So we're only out of his line of sight for like a fraction of a second. Next time we do it, maybe a couple seconds. Or, if you're not too many steps away, we might want to practice this one to the point where you can get 25 feet away before you start moving out of sight. So we have a nice long room here, so maybe you put him in a stay here and walk all the way back to the fridge, and that's when you start actually, for this setup, I would put him in a stay there, and then go back there, but also vary it. Sometimes put him in a stay there and move out of the way this way or down the steps. Dogs don't generalize well. They have to do something 40 or 80 more different versions or iterations before it can start to generalize. So make sure you're practicing in different parts of the house, but the idea is a long distance. Maui, love it. Okay, so eventually we get to the point where we're 2 seconds out of his sight, 3 seconds. And you want it, now the rule is once you can get a dog to make 2 hours, they don't need to go beyond that. Now 2 hours is a long time to work up to. So at first we just want to get to the point where you can be out of sight for up to 5 minutes. I don't see one in the house, but it doesn't mean they don't have one. I have a little security camera. It's awesome to do this with a security camera. You put the security camera watching your dog, you go out of line of sight and look at it on your phone. If the dog starts fidgeting, he's at his breaking point. There is one. So basically, use technology to your advantage. And then now you can see he starts fidgeting. Okay, so I need to back up 10 seconds and keep on practicing that one until he's comfortable with that. Eventually, when you get to the point where you can be out of his line of sight for 5 minutes, and again, you might have to go to 10, 15, 2 hours is the maximum that you'll have to go. But eventually you get to the point where he's comfortable without you being in the room. Like I talked about earlier, for a lot of dogs, it's too much to go from 100% access to humans to 0 when they go to work and I'm left home alone. So I'm put outside or in the garage. Well, now what we can do is put him in a stay and then go get a drink of water, come back and release him. And this point, he gets to see us the whole time. And another time, we may put the kids up to bed. Put them in a stay, go put them in bed. The idea is these should be progressively, each one just slightly longer. And if you do one and he gets up out of the stay, that means that you need to back up and do more work with the previous iteration. Crash. Now right there, the guardian's filming, so she couldn't reward, but for passive training, you can just say the word when he does it so he has the association. Okay, so when you get to the point where you're at the 5-minute mark, out of his line of sight, or whatever the iteration that you need to go, and he's okay with that, then we want to start making it more distracting. Now maybe he reacts to sounds of dogs barking. So maybe we have on our DVR dog whisper episode or something that has dogs barking, we can play back over and over again. Now if that's the case and he starts getting out of the stay when he hears the dogs bark, then go back and practice again, but this time turn the volume way down so you can barely hear the dogs barking. And then we help him practice under that scenario. And each time we practice it, we turn the volume up a little bit. Maybe I do 5 practice treats or whatever, and then I go to volume 7 and practice a little bit later in the day. So the idea is eventually you get it sounding like there's a really cacophony of dogs right over here, and he's filtering them out because he's been able to train and isolate on the stay. Or another great place to do it is put him into a stay while people are walking by the front door. We're getting to be a time of year where you probably won't have your door open, but if your kids have some friends come over to play, that's also a good way to do it. Now, when I do this, again, you want to play with the intensity of the movements. So if the kid's running around is too much, he can't deal with it, have the kids, okay, kids, I'm going to hit you with a magic wand, now you're in slow motion. Have the kids walking around him, literally in slow motion. And then after he's able to do that while they stay, then we do it a little bit faster and a little bit faster. Eventually it gets to the point where the kids are sprinting around him and he's able to sit and stay and relax because we've helped him practice and taught him the behavior we want. And the stay means you cannot leave until you get the break or the release word. This way you can help him practice staying in different capacities in different parts of the house. And now he doesn't feel incomplete when he's left alone. He feels secure. Not only am I okay being alone, but I'm doing a job right now. I'm doing something the human wants me to do. That's going to help me have a better sense of pride as well. All right, this is how you can use positive reinforcement and teach your dog how to stay.